As long as I can remember, we've always had aquariums growing up. We would have freshwater aquariums. We never really ended up having a saltwater aquarium, but we would always go to the beach. We'd go visit different aquariums up north. We went to ecology camps, and the ocean just really fascinated me. I knew one day on my own I'd really like to dabble a little bit into the saltwater fish tank world. So that's what I'd like to talk to you about today and do a demonstration about how to feed your corals. By having corals in your fish tank can really flourish and look beautiful like a lot of the aquariums I used to visit as a child. One of the reefcentral.com websites is going to go a little bit into the background of corals, and they're actually not plants like most people think they are. They're animals. Those animals can eat a different variation of ways, whether it be direct or indirect. So we're going to go with indirect first and talk about that. Most of the corals can feed indirectly and do not need to be fed. They actually filter. They have little polyps and they actually filter some of the food in your aquariums. Zooxanthellae is a type of algae that lives on your corals. That algae is what works through photosynthesis. So you need to have an aquarium light, like I have two on my fish tank. And that will help engage with the photosynthesis for the algae, in which in turn the animal, the coral itself, will feed off of that. So that's one indirect way to feed your corals. Another is by the fish that are in your aquarium, or the shrimp, or other type of crustaceans that are in there. When they have their waste, that will also filter through your aquarium. And that's another indirect way, is those corals will actually filter through. Another website reference is reefaquarium.com, and they discuss how 60% of the actual food or energy that corals get is through the zooxanthellae algae, through the photosynthesis. So 60% of their energy comes that way. Another 20%, again, is from when the fish or the different type of waste that's in your aquarium. The last 20% can be through feeding your corals, and that's a direct way to feed them. Some of the materials that you'll need is, you can actually do a liquid feeding. So this is just very tiny particles of crustaceans, plankton, and this is one way that you can actually put in to feed your corals. Another way is like a dried food, an actual coral frenzy. What this is, it's just crushed up pieces of from fish eggs, krill, those types of things that you can mix with your aquarium, and I'll show you and demonstrate that this is one way that you can also feed your corals. Another way is actually buying frozen shrimp itself, mysis shrimp, and they're little tablets, and you can also put that in next to the corals as well so they can grasp them. So those are three different ways. What I'm going to show you on here, you can end up, I use a turkey baster. You can actually use a pipette, which is a smaller version. You can use a syringe, anything that you're able to get the mixture in. So the first thing that you need to do is you end up getting some of the aquarium water, which I've already done. You just honestly scoop out a little bit of the aquarium water, and you put it on your table, and then you end up adding in the powdered mixture, which is my Coral Frenzy. Now, because you need to let that set for about 10 minutes, I've already gone ahead and mixed that together. And it almost looks kind of like a brown kind of color. And it just depends on how many corals you end up having in your fish tank as to how much you need. So we end up following the directions. But this needs to sit for about 10 minutes so it can end up absorbing and turning in, not quite pasty, but a little bit of a thicker consistency. So the lights are on. You like to keep the lights on when you do your feedings, because then the corals are open and awake. You end up having a timer on your corals, so you want to make sure you feed during the day. Another thing is the jets that are on, you end up wanting to have them off, because when you target feed and you actually end up putting this in, like I will for one of the corals, you don't want it to be blown around where the coral isn't able to grasp the food. So we end up, I've already turned the flow off. Doesn't look very pretty. It's a brown kind of color that I've absorbed in. And you end up taking this and you just reach it down, and I know it's hard for you to see, but I end up just letting it come out and pushing a little bit. And what the corals do is they grasp some of the food coming out. You can do several coral. I could go to each coral and feed each one, but for time sensitive, I don't need to be going to each coral, but at least you can kind of get the idea. I let that flow for about 10 minutes, and then I turn the suction back on again, so this way all the food won't be absorbed or won't be filtered out. So I've shown you how to directly feed corals, and we've talked about indirectly feeding corals and how that works. So I hope you did end up learning something today that maybe you can use in the future, and then you can have a beautiful coral aquarium. I thank you very much.